Here we have our good friend Mike Cernovich, a lawyer, filmmaker, and the best-selling author of Gorilla Mindset, How to Control Your Thoughts and Emotions to Live Life on Your Terms, and MAGA Mindset, How to Make You and America Great Again. Mike is also the producer of the film documentary Silenced, Our War on Free Speech. And I highly anticipate this, the upcoming film Hoaxed, The Media's War on Truth, twitter.com/Cernovich, that's Cernovich, facebook.com/Mike Cernovich, and of course, Cernovich.com. Mike, how you doing today?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Now, it's a short amount of time until Christmas. What's going in your house? How are you cleaning out the chimney? How many milk and cookies are you setting out for the big fat guy? What's going on?
Well, it's because Syra's birthday is early December. We already had her big one-year party with all these presents. I don't know where we're going to put the other stuff. But we do have a big tree, and we do have the stockings and everything. Sean is very into that kind of stuff, and it'll be fun. First Christmas, really. Last year, we had a newborn, 3-week-old baby, and this year we have a full baby.
It's funny, yeah, that first year with the new baby, because I have a December baby too, that first year with the new baby, I don't really remember much of it at all. I mean, everything kind of went out the window because it is truly, at least it was for me, a deep shock how much you think, oh, they're going to be like cats, they sleep a lot and so on. But the amount of time, focus, energy, and effort you need on a newborn, it's amazing in the modern world. It's hard to imagine how anyone survived like 5,000 years ago, given how much work and resources new babies consume. But that first year is kind of a blur. The second year was much more fun because she was toddling around and was opening stuff and was really interested in stuff. And we have, of course, lots of friends over. And the difference between the first year with a baby and the second year with a toddler is really quite a magical transition.
Well, they say that the days are long, but the years are short. Yes.
Well, that's a good way of putting it. And so for you, what was it like for you? I know you talked a little bit about your childhood and Gorilla Mindset, but what were Christmases like for you when you were growing up?
Christmas for me, actually, one of the only childhood stories that sticks with me is that even though we grew up quite poor, one year my parents sold their wedding bands to buy Christmas presents for us kids. And it was always important to them. My grandparents were well off, relatively speaking, for a working class town. And my grandma always took Christmas very seriously. So we would do Christmas Eve at Grandma and Grandpa's house with everybody, the full extended family, and then Christmas Day would be with our parents individually, and then we would go have Christmas Day sort of lunch or dinner at Grandma and Grandpa's again. So I grew up in a family. It's always weird when people call me like a misogynist or something, and like we clearly haven't really looked into who I admire the most in my family, which would be my grandmother, who was sort of this family matriarch who dealt with all the immature male egos and kept everybody in line when the brothers were fighting or the grandpa was fighting with my dad or my uncle or whatever. She's the person that told everybody, all right, holidays are coming, get over it, everybody get here. And she sort of rounded everybody up.
And it's funny too, because Christmas should be the time to sort of bury the hatchet and resolve differences and so on, because, when everybody's busy with the general shotgun cannon of life itself, you can let differences or disagreements kind of fester. But around Christmas, it should be, I think, a time for people to sit down and work things out. But a lot of times it just seems to make things worse. Like you get people across the table kind of sniping at each other, passive aggressive stuff. And I guess every family needs some kind of hero who's going to put a stop to that nonsense and just have people sit down and work things out. And Christmas is a wonderful time to step up for people and be that hero.
Yeah, there was never a fight during Christmas or any kind of holiday event at my grandma's house. Zero. That's why when I read all these articles, how do you deal with, Thanksgiving Day arguments, Christmas arguments? To me, that is just unfathomable. What do you mean? How do you deal with it? You don't deal with it. You don't argue with people on these days. You can't go one day without just being an acrimonious person, right? I don't talk politics or argue with anybody at my in-laws. When people try to bring up politics and stuff, I'm like, look, man, I go, you're kind of talking to a porn star off the clock. I do what I do and entertain and educate and inform. But when I'm off the clock, man, I'm here to talk about the wine or whatever. I have no interest. So I even had one time I was at a friend's house and this is before the election. So his brother-in-law came in, and he was just itching to argue with me. And it was Christmas time, and he was itching to argue with me about the election. And I was like, "Look, dude, I don't care. I don't talk about this stuff off the clock. Leave me alone, man. Can't we just talk about life, something general?" And a lot of these people know they live very nasty lives, very high conflict lives. I even see it on Twitter. If you've noticed on Twitter, I've been a lot nicer to people for most of the year, in fact, but especially this month. And my notifications, especially by the verified people, are just nasty. And I thought, don't you people have families or something, or don't you have something else you want to be doing? And the answer, unfortunately, for these people is no. But anyway, there was no nonsense at any kind of holiday gathering that we ever had at my grandmother's. And to this day, I won't argue with anybody during the holidays. And in fact, in real life, I have no interest. And I don't understand people. I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, kind of thinking, what is wrong with these people? You can't just go and interact with people, go on a wine tasting and just say, "Oh, isn't the vineyard beautiful? What a nice day. What a good life that we live, that we can afford to do this kind of stuff. And we can just all kind of drive in our Volvos and, how the great life is going." And for a lot of people, they just can't do it. And it's kind of sad and sick, actually.
Well, it's a funny thing because I know that idea has kind of been floating around. I think you've talked about it, some other people, and I think it's worth mentioning here. It's not just on the left, but it does seem like a lot of the leftists have significant problems with any celebration or holiday that puts them in close contact with their family of origin. And I mean, I guess maybe if you've been propagandized that everyone's like a bourgeois pig and an exploiter and a patriarch, you live in this kind of cactus universe of collision and evisceration, and it must just be exhausting. Talk about burning out your adrenals and your cortisol levels are always high. Like, what an exhausting, debilitating, conflict-ridden life seems to be kind of infesting the minds of people so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think a question I think about a lot really is, I'll give you an example. Last night, there's a tweet going around. In November 13th, I said Roy Moore is going to win. Spring cap it, right? Because at the time, that was 100% true. And I never endorsed Roy Moore. So last night, people are going, "Oh, you loser." One guy goes, "You supported a pedophile, and I can't wait for the FBI to kick down your door." And I thought for a second, and I go, this was like a verified person. And I thought, well, I have a wife and a newborn daughter, and you want federal agents to kick down my door because I'm good at Twitter, because I say things that you don't like to say. And I really do just think about, like, what is wrong with these people? What makes them so? I don't want, if you're a liberal, like, I don't want the feds to kick down Matty Iglesias' door, Dave Weigel's door. Jim Acosta, I think he makes a lot of stuff up. I don't want anybody to kick down his door, the feds. So I spend a lot of time thinking about what is wrong with these people, that you don't understand the consequences of using the force of the state against political enemies. To me, that's anathema to everything that I believe in. And I get that all the time. I can't wait till you're in prison. I'm like, whoa, chill out a little bit. I can understand if you would say, I hope you get fired. Maybe I hope you can't sell books anymore. I get that. Maybe I hope you get banned from social media. Okay, that I can all kind of understand. But they're so quick to just say, I can't wait till you go to prison. And I'm thinking, because you don't agree with me? What is wrong with these people? And that does come from the left. I don't see people on the right, for the most part, saying that we need to imprison journalists simply because we don't like their stories or don't agree with them.
It's like they've been deeply trained in the dark arts of bottomless hatred. And everybody needs to have that check on their emotions. That, of course, is what guerrilla mindset is about to some degree. But you need to be able to reason with your emotions. You don't want to crush your emotions completely, because they are there to give you sort of immediate biofeedback on values and opportunities and risks and dangers and hopes and so on. But you really need to be able to reason with your emotions. And I think the degree to which some people just, like, wouldn't you type that even if you were in like a fit of rage, and then the next day look at it and say, what the, like, where's that check? Where's that boomerang? Where's that pause where people say, where am I in my life that I thought this was a great thing to type to someone? And that kind of check and balance just doesn't seem to be there as much.
No, it doesn't. There is something wrong with them, because I've gone hard on Twitter with people who actually deserved it. And then a year later, people go, oh, I can't believe you said that about the guy. And I was like, yeah, you're kind of right. I shouldn't go around saying people have man boobs and stuff, you know? That isn't cool. That was just what I was doing at the time in the moment. And you should reflect and just say, yeah, you know, he was going at me and he asked for it or whatever. But the point is that, and this is what I'm aspiring to going forward in the future, and what I've been really working hard on in 2018 is just not letting them drag me down to their level, because that did happen a lot. And it does bring out the worst in you. So I've been trying to bring out the best in other people. And then here's what I noticed, Stefan. This has blown my mind. I will never troll again, and I will tell you why I will never troll again. But not because it's morally wrong necessarily, but because I've learned that being happy, having a wonderful family, being successful makes them so much angrier than any insult you could ever share.
So it's the super troll of personal majesty and success, right? But that's the old saying, right? The best revenge is a better life.
Yeah, living well is the best revenge. So I realized last year, I was like, you moron. You wasted all this time thinking of barbs and insults when all you have to do is be successful and break news and have accomplishments and live a good life. That makes them way angrier. That trolls them way more than any kind of personal insult. I thought so as you said to myself, you've been doing it wrong, man.
Well, but I'll tell you, Mike, I mean, I think that's a good decision, and I applaud it. I think it's a wise decision, but I'm just going to miss it a little. I'm just like, you know, like Freddie Mercury gets off cocaine. It's really great, but he's not writing Bohemian Rhapsody anymore. And like, I'm glad that he's off cocaine. I'm glad that he's put that aside. But on the other hand, that was some great music. And I just wanted to point out that there were some wonderful flourishes that you had on the web. I'm glad they're in the review, but they were fun to watch at times. I'll tell you that.
Well, it was like pro wrestling, you know, the characters and everything. So I made a great heel because I learned what I learned early on, and this is a thing everybody on the right needs to learn, especially people like Mitt Romney, is if you're on the right, Mitt Romney, you're Hitler. And unless you want to go against Trump, and now you're a well-respected statesman and everything else like that. So I learned they're going to make me a bad guy anyway. So I might as well just embrace the heel role. So I'm still going to be a bad guy. But I'm going to be a bad guy more like Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, kind of is a bad guy, right? So he's just saying, look at me, look at how great my life is. Don't you wish you had this kind of thing, you liberals? So it'll still be fun, but, you know, fat shaming, things like that. I haven't fat shamed in a while, and I'm really working hard not to do that because I figure, you know, you're fat, everybody knows you're fat. You don't feel good about it. I don't need to add that into your life. There are other ways that I can, you know, annoy people. So by being in shape, you annoy them because when you're in shape, they have to reflect on their own life. So it's more effective that way anyhow.
And it's a funny thing too, because I miss the feedback that could come from the left. I mean, the left they have good criticisms on foreign policy and other things that I've talked about before. But the problem is it's just such a concentrated, monotonous symphony of hatred and abuse that you just tune all of it out. And that's the shame. It's like the sort of stereotypical nagging wife that you just kind of tune out completely. It's just like, nah, nah, nah. And another thing, you know, you don't, she might have some great criticisms, but it's the monotony and endlessness of the attacks that have you tune that person out. And if the left wanted to have an effect, and I wish that they would, you know, we need as many voices to get to the truth as possible, they'd pull back or oppose some of this escalation, this giant, it's like any noise in your house, you know, like there's some drilling out front of your house. Like for the first 10 minutes, it's like, oh, that's kind of annoying. And then you just tune it out. And I miss that kind of feedback from the left when they were good anti-war, good anti-imperialism critics and so on. Now a lot of them are just concentrating this monotonous hatred that I'm like, I just got to give up on the entire spectrum of feedback, which is kind of a shame for both parties.
Yeah, I mean, in the left, they do great microbrews. They make great food. They do, you know, there's always been something, I don't know if I invented this concept, but like 20 years ago, I was talking to my best friend from growing up, and I go, I'm a red man who wants to live in a blue state. And well, that's changing now because California is becoming a mess. And actually, liberals are leaving California for Colorado and Texas, and they're trying to ruin those states with their mind virus. But the idea is that, yeah, liberals used to be, you know, that's the avant-garde art. Now it's degenerate. So what happened is that they're the ones who are the artists, the artisans, and then postmodernism came in and destroyed liberalism. So that's why a lot of the effective critiques, especially people like Jordan Peterson, who I would consider liberal, based on my political views anyway, is postmodernism came in and then destroyed liberalism. So liberalism would be, hey, be creative, be creative, do art, think alternatively. If you're gay, be gay, right? But then postmodernism comes in and says, well, no, it's not enough to think creatively, because thinking creatively is still within these hetero-orthodox structures. What you need to do is poop on a piece of paper and then call that art. Right. That's where we are now with liberal ideology, the idea that, hey, we should, hey, it's a human impulse to want to help people. Now, you're on the right and should say, well, charity should do it. It shouldn't be the government. There's an argument to be had there. But collectively agree that, like, helping people is a good thing to do and we should do it. But you can't help the whole world, right?
And you have to be really careful who you help, because otherwise some people will manipulate you to get resources.
Yeah, or you end up with the attempted terrorist attack in New York. That person was brought in under chain migration. So it's like, okay, the people you're trying to help are trying to blow us up. Hey, hold on. Maybe we ought to just think about this, have some kind of moratorium. And the left isn't willing to have this debate. They won't even, like, for example, I got this from Gavin McInnes, and it stumps them every time. They said, if you want to stump a liberal or a leftist on immigration, when they tell you that we need to let more immigrants, then say, okay, how many a year? How many? We need to let in more. No. Like, how many immigrants should be let in every year? And what percentage of these people should come from what countries? They don't have any answer, right? They don't. They just, immigration's good. You don't know. It's like, no. Immigration can be catastrophic. If you have, 1 million people come from Liberia into your neighborhood, those people are going to leave the neighborhood. Let's just be honest. They go into San Francisco, you're going to be like, what is this? This is so different to me that I don't understand. And they don't have an answer. So that's why we can't have arguments with the liberals. I would gladly debate them. But if you can't answer the question, how many immigrants should be allowed into America every year, and where should they come from by percentage, then there is no conversation to be had.
This would be my Christmas present to the world if I could give one, Mike. It would be a big giant lever. And that big giant lever would stop the momentum of movements that were productive before they went genuinely insane. Because, there was some really great stuff in the 60s, fantastic art and literature, music in particular, was this eruption of creativity from some of the stodginess of the 50s. It's like, that was great. And then you got people choking to death on their own vomit. You got the nihilism and family destruction of the late 60s and the 70s. You have, like, postmodernism take. So it's great to loosen the rules and think outside the box. But, sawing your own head off, leaning over so that it falls down a well, your entire brain. It's like, it's the same thing with feminism. Let's aim for equality between the genders. It's like, nope, you gotta go, the pendulum has to go too damn far, and then it has to be about female supremacy and man hatred. It's like, I wish that there was just some, like the momentum, just a big switch saying, okay, you've reached the Aristotelian mean, stop here, or you're going to go nuts. But the revolution never seems to know when to stop, and then it just ends up eating itself. It's a horrible cycle. Well, again, alternative media is pushing back against that a lot, I think.
Well, yeah, fundamentally, it goes back to Hegel and Nietzsche and will to power and the dialectic. So the left, any movement, the right's going to go too far. Just like the right went too far, we're trying to put gay people in jail, right? I mean, come on, get out of here. Roy Moore, that's why I love when people are like, oh, you really must be sad Roy Moore won. Like, no, not really. Why? Because he thinks being gay should be illegal. So for me, that's just a little bit much. Now, I know people needed a Republican seat, so I understand the politics of it. So you lose a Republican seat. But so for me, I was always in the election like, well, whatever.
I think that the hope was that he would have spent more time building a wall and less time trying to unjustly put and immorally put gays in jail.
Yeah, I think he would have been kind of a mess, actually. He would have been a hot mess in there. And whatever the case, though, is that's where I could just say, hey, the right went too far. It's one thing to have morals and structures. It's another thing to be an intolerant person who can't respect other people's morals and structures, right? So I'm glad that there was pushback against that. But we went from it shouldn't be illegal to be gay to make the gay wedding cake or we're going to make you go out of business.
Right.
That's too far on the left. They don't want to make.
Well, and now there is, of course, all of this gender blending that's going on with 5-year-olds and all of this kind of stuff. So again, just stop it in the middle. Now, I think, and I made this case in another call that I had, Mike, but I think that actually Christmas is a better time for resolutions and for bigger picture stuff. New Year's Eve is too chaotic and too much fun and too much partying. And you know, you always a lot of people wake up with a hangover and they've eaten too much food and so on. So it's not always the best. I think Christmas is a really, really great way. Now, you've talked about some of the ways that you want to change sort of over the coming year. What is the message that you would like to give to people who are going to have some chance for self-reflection over this holiday season?
Yeah, you always want to reflect on what you did 2018 or 2017, whether you did good, bad, or ugly. You got to reflect on it, and then think, how are you going to create new habits to improve in 2018? So me, for an example, I did great job of content, great job of showing up every day, great job of pushing news cycles, great job of doing a lot of things. But this green background, you know, it's like, okay, it's got to go. We got to come up with some green screens, and we got to come up with some nicer things, make it more professional. So for me, I'm thinking, well, okay, I know how to get on a mic. I know how to talk. I know how to analyze facts and present them in a coherent way for people. Well, now I need to do that in a way that looks more professional, clean, polished, more likely to go viral, more likely to be shared. So that's what I'm thinking more towards in 2018. And that's what people need to do is, what did you do in 2017? Do you want to build on what you did and go to another level, or do you want to not do what you did in 2017? In which case you can't not do something. You just have to do something else. That's the mistake people make. People go, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit. You know, overeating. Right? Here's what I always tell people: don't quit overeating. Go to the gym for an hour. We're like, what? But I want to quit overeating. I'm like, just trust me. Just go to the gym for an hour, lift hard. You're not going to want to eat the same kind of food. Your body's going to crave more food. You're just going to feel sick. So you can't just eliminate a pattern. You have to replace it with another pattern. So lately I was drinking a lot of wine, you know, and instead of drinking wine, I drink kombucha out of a wine glass. Why? Because I don't drink alcohol. I'm not like, give me shots and everything. I just enjoy the process, the aesthetic, the calmingness, right? And the same way a lot of people who smoke, it was not the nicotine, because you can chew nicotine gum. It was the process. So I go, well, I'll just drink kombucha, because you can't really chug a kombucha. Yeah, that you'd be right. So I pour kombucha into a wine glass and I sip on the kombucha, and I feel every bit as relaxed and winding down as I did with wine. So rather than just say I'm going to drink less wine, I just said, no, I'm just going to drink kombucha instead of wine, and it doesn't feel like I've lost anything at all.
Well, yeah, because you want to avoid anything that's going to trigger willpower, because willpower is unsustainable. Everyone's got to live and get things done. And anytime you just say, well, I'm going to white knuckle it, I'm going to grit teeth it, I'm going to change, it's never going to last. You need substitutes, you need replacements. Like for me, getting off pop, I used to love pop, and I just had to say, okay, I'm going to have some soda water with a shot of juice or something like that. I need something different, and then I can transition to water from that. But yeah, try and avoid anything that's just white knuckle willpower, because you're going to erode. Life gets busy, habits take over. You can't just sit there the whole time. It's like trying to walk around all day on your tippy toes. Like, you're just not going to be able to sustain it. So I think that's great advice. Well, listen, I really want to thank you for your time and, of course, for your friendship this year. The relationships that I've built up over the last couple of years are one of the great prides of my life, and I count you as a very good friend. And I really want to wish you the best, of course, Shauna and Syra, the best for this holiday season. And take advice. You know, there's no need to fight over Christmas. And Christmas can be a time where we do put aside differences and find out what there is to appreciate about the people in our lives. Not always focus on the hot button issues of where we disagree, but find a way in which we can end up agreeing by respecting each other. So thanks so much, Mike. I really, really appreciate your time today. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
My pleasure. Merry Christmas to you and everybody listening and watching.